Greetings, folks. Sealer here. It's been quite a while since I've had a division replay on the channel. In fact, I think the last one I released was back in October, so we're a little overdue to have another one. For those of you unfamiliar with this channel's division replays, we will feature a single match, and we will transition between perspectives of the different players within the division during the replay. So today's match features a trio of Tier 9 ships, with Jimijaz in the Japanese gunboat destroyer Kitakaze, myself in the Soviet gunboat destroyer the Udaloi, and AngryAce in the premium U.S. Navy battleship the USS Georgia. We are in a Tier 10 domination match on Warrior's Path with one Tier 8 aircraft carrier per team. Jimijaz's build blends concealment and gunboating, but mostly is about the AA, which is going to serve him very well in this match. My build in the Udaloi is the same as what I run on my Tashkent. I'm all about the guns and the speed and the maneuverability. And AngryAce's build is a blend between concealment and secondaries. So based on the title of this video, you can probably tell our division is going to shoot down a multitude of airplanes. In fact, we've started off with Jimijaz as he and I are entering the Bravo cap, and Jimijaz has shot down the first of what will turn out to be many airplanes that he will shoot down in this game. I'm going to transition quickly over to AngryAce's perspective as his opening salvo here, almost basically max range on the broadside Yamato, goes out. Now, the Georgia has a reputation for having very accurate guns. Since it has only 6, and in order for it to be able to compete in long-range gunnery, our accuracy generally has to be very good. So he gets a reasonably good salvo in his first go at maximum range. We've switched over to my perspective in the Udaloi as Jimijaz and I have now captured Bravo. And in fact, we got it completely uncontested, so it's pretty clear that the opposition are focusing exclusively on Alpha and Charlie. We do take down the Mogador on the far east side of the map, claiming first blood for our team. And Jimijaz and I are going to move over to Charlie, where we can see that the Charlie cap is just about to be taken. We can tell that because the Z-52, the opposing Z-52 is an alpha, that it is going to be the Kitakaze, well, in fact, we're going to find out it is the Kitakaze that is over here at Charlie. So I've got the lead on Jimijaz because, well, one, I'm faster, but secondly, I think I left the cap first, or left Bravo. And I'm going to look back here just to make sure that I'm going to be able to send torpedoes safely into the smoke screen. There's my look back. I'm just about to send, and I get detected. So the Kitakaze has come out of his smoke. My first salvo, I give way too much lead and completely miss him. Next salvos will be much better aimed. We're going to switch over to Jimijaz's perspective here because his higher rate of fire and more rifles are going to mean that he is going to get the kill on the Kitakaze, as the Kitakaze is obviously facing a lot of fire between myself and Jimijaz and some other folks. And then here come the torpedoes from the Kitakaze. This is kind of a funny scene. So Jimijaz is just going to avoid the torpedoes, and he's going to gracefully glide into the side of the Yamato here, and unfortunately slip out of the cap briefly, but that was kind of a nice little dodge to avoid the torpedoes from the Kitakaze. So we are obviously going to capture Charlie here. It may take us a little bit longer because some of our allies that are in the cap are obviously being focused by the ships that are south of Charlie. Now I'm going to switch over here to AngryAce's perspective in the Georgia because he's going to have a few befuddling salvos here, like this one that he just sent on the Salem that was perfectly aimed as far as I can tell, but completely missed. It just completely straddled the ship. And so that he's going to have a few somewhat frustrating or quite frustrating salvos. In fact, a very interesting one that's going to happen late in the game that I'll point out. In fact, you'll kind of see it when it happens. Our west flank is being completely overrun. We've lost all but one ship. Our Buffalo that's on the north side of Alpha is now completely isolated, and he's also being spotted and focused by the carrier. So we are going to lose the Buffalo there. Jimijaz, AngryAce, and I, our goal was to help lock things down. In fact, we just did lose the Buffalo. So our goal was to lock things down over here at Charlie, and then push through back to the middle of the map, because again, the opponents have not made any attempt to contest Bravo at all, so we're kind of lucky from that perspective. But our teams, once we do push through the Charlie cap here, the two teams will converge on Bravo, and that's where most of the remaining engagements will follow up. So AngryAce continues to fire here on the Iowa, getting mixed results. We've briefly switched, over to my perspective, as I've been chasing this Salem with, mixed results on my gunnery here. Some of my shots are not very well aimed, although he is kind of hiding away from me. But I've been sort of whittling this Salem down as he's been trying to flee the Charlie area. But in fact, it's not going to be my guns that are going to finish him off. I'm going to switch over to Jimijaz's perspective in the Kitakaze. He is going to land the killing blow on the Salem and come back to the Bravo cap. Here we have the Iowa. The Iowa is now in a crossfire between Jimijaz and AngryAce, and we're going to switch over to AngryAce's perspective because he's about to get into a drive-by here with the Iowa. I think AngryAce was briefly considering firing on the broadside Drake, which is one of the British heavy cruisers that are in testing right now, but he made obviously the logical choice to finish off the Iowa. So we've completely cleared things out on the east flank and are now moving towards Bravo to help defend against the opposition that are moving over from Alpha. Now you can see we're going to ping on the map a few times because we have a Massachusetts and a Yamato, which is the remainder of our battleships, not including AngryAce, that are going to linger in and around Charlie for, well, frankly, I think too long. And so AngryAce is going to end up being the main bullet sponge for our team for quite a while at the Bravo cap. Now we've come over to my perspective just because I'm looking to try to get on flanks to be able to harass some of the opponents that are going to be moving over from Alpha. We've switched over to Jimijaz's perspective here because he's now run into the Z52. And given the Z52's profile and what his position means that torpedoes are on the way, and so both Jimijaz and AngryAce need to keep moving, and they have to rotate out here to avoid or try to avoid the torpedoes that are definitely coming. In fact, there they are, and we are going to avoid that set of torpedoes. And but now you can see the opposition is making a pretty strong push here to get into Bravo. You can also see again that we have our two other allied battleships that are just milling around in the Charlie cap. Was a little bit frustrating at this point. We'll switch back to my perspective as I'm getting in some long-range gunnery on some of these opponents. But Jimijaz had to use his smoke to get into concealment away from the Z52. I am now dropping smoke for Jimijaz so that he can glide into it and use that as cover while I spot and I do my gunboating thing. Again, we're having to sort of peel back here a little bit. I had hoped in my Udaloi that I could push a little farther west and harass earlier. But the push from the opposition here is into Bravo is pretty strong. They've now moved two battleships, one of which is fairly low health. You can see our Yamato and Massachusetts. Again, our Massachusetts is now starting to get into a position where he can help support things. Here, AngryAce is looking to potentially get a shot on, again, the Drake. Drake goes into concealment, at least briefly, and Ace has fired on the Yamato. Again, kind of some frustrating salvos. May have overestimated the speed that the Yamato was traveling, but AngryAce is going to want to turn around here and move back towards Bravo because the opposition has their Z52 is in there. They've got at least two battleships, then the Drake. So basically almost everything except the carrier, as far as we can see, and the Asashio have moved into Bravo, and so they've got a very strong presence there now, looking to get center map control. We do have a significant point lead, but these are cases where a well-coordinated push can make a big difference. Now we switch back to my perspective in the Udaloi, as I have now run into the Asashio B. Now, I make a execution error here. So I have my normal instinct when I get into a gunfight, when I'm in a destroyer and I get into a gunfight, is to kite out because it allows me to control my angling better and allows me to get into concealment more rapidly if I realize that I'm going to lose the gunfight or I just need to get away. In this case, I didn't need to do that. I am at no risk, excuse me, of torpedoes from the Asashio since they can't hit me, and I'm a much stronger gunboat than the Asashio. Plus, I have a heal, so I should have just been pushing into it. But as luck would have it, I do end up finally getting the last blow on the Asashio and take him out. Now, the opposition has taken Bravo, so we've lost a little bit of the center map control, although we do have a significant point lead because the opposition basically lost a lot of ships in the process of taking Bravo. So we have a very strong lead. We've come over to AngryAce's perspective because he's looking to try to get some shots in on the opposition that is moved into Bravo. And myself and the Udaloi and Jimijaz are looking to move over more towards Alpha, try to initially get some flanking shots on ships. Now, take a look at this shot. This is not a bug in the replay. He, in the game, actually did have the Bismarck targeted, but he had intended to fire on the Drake, and as luck would have it, his shots did hit the Drake, and he actually got a very good salvo. So that was a very bizarre shot that AngryAce experienced, because usually what happens in those cases is those shots will end up going far and we'll miss both ships. We switched over to Jimijaz's perspective because after a couple of good salvos from AngryAce on the Drake, Jimijaz is able to get the kill on the Drake, and so now we've taken down we've taken down all but 3 ships. We did lose our Yamato that was over on the Charlie Cap, and now we switched briefly back to AngryAce's perspective so that he can finish off the Bismarck. And that is going to leave the carrier and the Z-52. Come back to Jimijaz very briefly, as he is now shot down his 35th plane, earning AA Defense Expert. So again, his AA build definitely served him well in this game. Come over to my perspective, and I'm going to free camera this because I'm going to gunboat down the carrier that I have now detected. And because I have the habit of constantly zooming in and out, that's just the habit I have, so I constantly am looking around. It can be quite disorienting, so I've free cameraed this gunfire so that you don't have to experience all the sort of constant panning and zooming. Now the carrier obviously is gonna focus me because I'm attacking him, plus I'm getting the alpha cap from his team. I'm going to take some reasonably good damage, but our team has this pretty well locked up. We are taking Charlie back taking back Bravo, and I'm going to sink the carrier here fairly soon. And then the Z-52, we just will lose track of. Jimijaz will later on, after I sink the carrier here, we'll ping on the map where approximately where we think the Z-52 is, but it won't matter because we will have this game locked up, having secured all 3 caps, and we're already up to almost 900 points. Carrier gets in another pretty good strike on me, but not until after I've gotten the cap, and we're going to switch back to Jimijaz's perspective as he's shooting down the last of 44 planes that he shoots down in this game. So a very good match and very well executed by a number of people on our team. In fact, our Smolensk got 4 kills and he earned over 2,000 base XP. So I actually even thought about asking the Smolensk player for his replay so I could do a 4-way perspective, but I think that might have been a little bit confusing to try to keep track of 4 ships, let alone 3. So in any case, I'll leave the results up from all 3 of us for you to peruse at your leisure. I certainly hope you enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And as always, we hope to see you out there on the virtual seas, and we wish you happy sailing.